Folks, you know how we do in NoPixAfterDark podcast. We have the heavy hitters coming on. And I told you, this season, we're not going to stop. We're going to be the best of the best of Baltimore, all in best of Maryland. In this episode, we have this brother that he's doing so many big things. You see the books he got right here. He's doing a lot of great things out here. Next voice you hear is Mr. KD.
We made a pledge to do what's best for the health of our communities, and we continue to deliver on it every day for every one of our members. With access to a network of over 1 million providers, rewards for living healthy, and more care options than ever, we are Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we are changing healthcare for all that we serve. At Care First, it's not just our name, it's our promise.
Welcome to the NoPixAfterDark podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Dante. Folks, I told you we have heavy hitters today. Mr. KD, how are you, sir?
Oh, man, I'm doing wonderful.
I'm glad we could make this happen, brother.
Yeah, definitely.
You the hardest working brother out here.
Hey, you want to know something? Somebody got to be, right? and I'm sure you could relate to hard work. So, I really appreciate that coming from you.
No, you are everywhere. My peoples know who you are. They love you. They're like, that's family. I'm like, yeah, he's doing big things. And they said you got voice like an angel. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I don't know. Is that true or not?
I got some vocals.
You got some vocals?
I definitely got some vocals.
All right.
Got some vocals.
So tell people a little bit about you. Are you from Maryland? Tell us a little bit of your background.
Wow. You got about a month?
No, we don't got a month.
So I'm from East Baltimore.
Okay.
And I grew up Main Street in Patterson Park. So my background, I actually started out as a musician. So me and my mom, we started doing talent shows in East Baltimore and, just moving around the city and back. I started doing music in like 89. So I'm from East Baltimore and we just built this whole entertainment system. Like we had a small little record label and, we was selling music and that's how I originally started everything. Just me and my mother, we started music first. What
kind of music were you singing back in the day?
R&B.
R&B, yes. Okay.
So I started out dancing. But it started because of I went to Tench Tillman Elementary School.
Oh.
So I'm really from East Baltimore, right? So we started, with my teacher. My teacher, I used to sit in class and like say crazy stuff they would say. Like I was the dream big person, right? Mm-hmm. As a kid. So the teacher talked to my mom and she said, we have a talent show coming up, and she recommended that I get in the talent show, and my mother put me in there, and I was like imitating Michael Jackson, and I actually won. Yeah, and that's how everything started.
Okay, so then from there, was there a person that you used to look up to in the music industry who were like, I want to be like them? Was it want to be like Mike, or? Cause I'm a Prince guy. So okay. I like Mike, but I like Prince.
I like them both. But no, Michael Jackson was definitely a big inspiration.
Okay.
And he was someone that I modeled after. So I used to imitate all of his dances. And in the studio, it's funny looking at your production studio. This is how I started. Like we would have production in my mother's basement. We would go to Bill's Music Store. Shout out to Bill's Music Store.
Wow.
Man, that place was like a blessing because that was our first introduction to the music business of doing things at a professional level. We used to go to Bill's Music Store and look at the equipment, the drum machines and the keyboards and the bass guitars and the drums and all of the instruments, and that's when I actually was introduced to like real production.
Wow.
And it started to make things come to life. I remember we brought a microphone. First time getting like a real microphone. So first I really used to use a cone, like use a brush and all of that. And then we started with real equipment. And when we got the equipment, as you know, having production, once you actually get the real equipment, to most people it's like, okay, it's equipment, but not to content creators, artists, musicians. Equipment is like life or death.
Facts.
It brings your creativity, your gift, and your talent to like life for real in real life. So we ended up getting a microphone and got some other equipment, and that was the launch of, they used to call me Bootsy. So
okay.
Everybody in East Baltimore, they don't call me KD. So they call me Bootsy.
Bootsy, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I read something. I don't know if I heard it or read it. They said you were on Motown. Was that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. So
I know I'm skipping around, but
yeah.
I remember I read that you're in Motown. I heard you were an artist.
So we were for Sisters Only 96.
Okay.
And we met a guy named Brian Dickens, who's a pretty huge promoter. He was a promoter for like Yolanda Adams, Casey and JoJo, a whole bunch of big stars. And me and my mother, we had got on a bus and we went down there. And he was looking at me and my mom. So we was in the hallway and my mother looking at him. And she said, "You must be big time," because he had on like diamonds and jewelry. So I'm young, you know, I'm just there, right? So she walked up to Brian and she's like, "My son, he has talent." She just assumed he's somebody important because he had on all his jewelry, right? And actually he ended up being the promoter for the concert.
Wow.
And from Bryant, I sung for him. And he's like, "Can y'all meet me in Baltimore at Morgan State? Because I have Vicky Winans coming to Morgan State." And he's like, "We from Baltimore."
Right.
So when we came down there, we had dinner with him, and then he connected me with Stacey Lattisaw brother. And that's my best friend to this day. So Stacey Lattisaw brother, I didn't know who Stacey Lattisaw was. My mother knew who Stacey Lattisaw was. She was a big mega star. So we connected with Goldie. And I started going to the studio in Maryland, and that's when I got into the game. It's funny, I remember like Tank and Genuine used to be down there, Raheem Devine. Tank wasn't a big star yet, but I started recording, and we put a group together. First we was called Majesty, and then we changed the name to Prophet Jones.
Yeah.
And Goldie sent a demo to University Music, and at the time they had just signed with Universal. And at first we was on Interscope first.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were on Interscope. Then we had management with Overbrook Entertainment, Will Smith, and James Lass of the company, and we were living out. Then we went out to L.A. And we was on the Jamie Foxx Bait soundtrack with Jamie, Missy Elliott, Fat Joe, a whole bunch of people.
Wow.
So we were on the Bait soundtrack that came out, and then things kind of went left after Interscope, and then Russell Simmons actually helped us get signed to Motown.
Nice. When you look back at all that, does it seem like a long time, or it was like a dream, or just like this really happened? 'Cause, I mean, I call LA 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 Land. It's crazy out there.
Yeah,
it's a whole different world out there.
No, it definitely was a dream. You have to think. So my father went to prison when I was young. So a big part of my life, my father was in prison, and we didn't have money. You know, we down in East Baltimore. My mother working in the hospitals, struggling, cleaning floors, trying to make ends meet. So it was really, really, really rough. And in my family, no one had ever traveled or, done any of those things. But my mother, she always had like big dreams despite her environment and her, circumstances. And she was like really different. And actually, my other aunt, she was like, she may not want to do the music, but she always was like dressed nice and things like that. So, no, it was a dream come true. I mean, I remember the first time I went to California, I was like numbed for like 10, 15 minutes. I was stuck because me and my cousin, I would go down to Flag Projects, and we used to look at Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, and we would see that Beverly Hills sign.
Yep.
So when I went to California, I took a picture in front of the Beverly Hills sign, right? Back then, you didn't have the cell phone, so I mailed it to my cousin for him to see it. Yeah. So he could see that I was really there, and it was mind blowing, man. I mean, I'd never seen $100 million homes. We in California, 50, all them big houses, and I remember when Black Eyed Peas was out there. So yeah, it was overwhelming.
What would you learn from that time period of your life? What would you say when you look back at it?
Coming out of it, it was one of the hardest parts of my life, right? But when I look back, it was the most valuable part of my life.
Okay.
Because you have to think about this. this was before social media.
Right.
Right. I always say, man, if I had social media, I would have had 10 million followers.
But did you really run social media back in the day, though? Did you?
No,
really?
we were living in real life.
Yeah, you didn't really want all that.
So the stuff that we were doing, because you got to think about it. Everything is already staged.
Right.
Right. We were setting the stage back then.
Right.
When you look at even No Limit and all these Rockefeller and all these musicians and people coming up at that time in the 90s, we were setting the stage.
Right.
The stage is set now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the things that we did back then would have been even more of a big deal.
Right.
If it was to be shown in real time, like we have social media.
Right.
So when you see artists now, it's a lot of great things happening, but the stage is not being set because it's been set.
Right. Because you guys.
We were at a time where culture was evolving.
Right. Right.
Where things people had never seen before.
Mm.
Just think about if it was social media. I remember being in New York City, and Jay-Z and Dame Dash was up at the office with us. And it's crazy when I think back. I'm like, man, like before, even the Jay-Z became who he is, like being in New York City, being around Swiss Beats and, working with some of the producers that I work with, and seeing in real life, a Jay-Z, a Dame Dash in the office, right? Mm-hmm. In the Universal office, and people coming and going, and all these different times where this great music was coming out, and we were evolving as a culture, and even we used to have a sponsorship with Fat Farm.
Oh wow!
When they had the showrooms in New York City,
mm-hmm.
before the fashion industry shifted, so we got to see like all of that stuff in real time. So it was definitely, looking back, I learned a lot from touring, from doing national TV, being on BET, and being on the Billboard charts. And it's funny, when Soul Train had their award, somebody sent me a clip that I was on Soul Train.
Oh wow!
I was on Soul Train with Master P and Christine Milian, and just looking back at those moments, and I've done probably about 2,500 radio interviews. Yeah, and been on sets and hours in studios and tours and all that before social media.
I like that, but you know what? But that's cool because you know what? It was genuine. It was authentic. Yeah. You weren't showing off for everybody. This is who you were.
Yep.
I really appreciate it. So, folks, hold that. We're gonna find out about these books, how these came about. Right after
when you give to United Way, your gift could be the first spark of something bigger. It can help someone find, interview for, and get hired for a job, and provide follow-up services for success. It can break down educational barriers and give that extra help to a struggling student with in-school support programs. Give today. Spark something bigger.
Are you or someone you love in need of mental health support? For All Seasons is now offering same-day therapy appointments with no wait list. Through the For All Seasons Open Access program, you can walk in for mental health services and begin therapy in the same visit. For All Seasons accepts all insurances and provides financial assistance if you need it. For therapy, psychiatry, or victim support, we have appointments available today. Call For All Seasons 410-822-1018.
And folks, we are back with Mr. KD. I mean, he's telling us this amazing story about coming up from East Baltimore, hanging out in the Hollywood Hills, hanging out with Master P and James Dash, and seeing the world at a young age and learning. But let's talk a little bit about this book. It says, "Give me one more try." Sorry. How did this all come about? What made it? Because everybody got a story, and you wrote it. So anybody's an author. Not much love, because that means you took time to write out what you need to talk about.
Give it one more try, man. It was being written. However, I had no clue it was being written. When after my Motown days, so soon as we released our album, 9/11 hit. So our album came out September the 16th, which wasn't wise at all to release an album.
No,
but we still was in the top of the charts.
So
we released 3 singles, and all of our 2 records charted, right? So I remember that day. It's crazy. But we released music, and we had all these things planned out. We were supposed to go to Africa. The music was playing. It was moving. Everything was moving. And after that time, things started to shift. After 9/11, the world just changed. I don't know if it was Y2K. I'm trying to remember back.
There's a lot going on.
It was a lot happening in that year. So that was our big release. Motown was ready to put millions in, and we went out on our promo tour and all these different things. And Motown had committed to doing a second album. Oh. So we had worked with the top tier. I mean, like Tricky Stewart, who produced Beyonce, Put a Ring on It, Rihanna's Umbrella, and all kinds of mega hits. We worked with everybody you could think of that was at the level. Teddy Riley, everybody. It was a lot of preparation for us to get that second album. The first album was the introduction, but the second album was to take us to the space, right? So the company had committed to doing that album. And at that time, back home in Baltimore, my family was banking on that, because when we first got signed, we had got advances and things like that, right? So I'm in New York and I'm spending the advance money, being young, right? So after we changed management from Overbrook and we got out of the Interscope deal, his name was John Dukakis. He was our day-to-day manager at Overbrook. And so when we left LA, we moved to New York. So I used to see Luther Vandross every day because he had some friends in the building. We was living on West 57th Street, right, and 8th and 9th. So it was a lot of different celebrities.
Like Midtown area, right?
And Trump used to come in there and have coffee. And Macaulay Culkin lived in the building across that burned down. If you remember, he caused a fire or something over there. So that was across, right? So the Tin Man from The Wiz lived in our building. So we moved to New York City. We was living in this like top tier Manhattan, $12,000 a month apartment. Then they moved us to East Manhattan. It was like $15,000 a month. They was spending a lot of money on it. And during that time, record companies would put money into development. They would take care of you. Now it's like you got to get hot yourself on the internet. How do you get hot? Where the money coming from? How you build a career, and then they say, okay, now we'll work with you. Back then, they took you with pure raw talent. You could be working at McDonald's. If you got talent, they'll put $1 million into you if they believed in you. You didn't need social presence. You didn't need any of this. It was pure talent, right? So the record company was ready to do the deal, and 2 of my group members just went missing. And I had $150,000 waiting on me. And I had promised my family that I would give them this money so that they could, I was going to be, still in New York. Keep in mind, I didn't have financial skills, so I blew all the money I had, being young and enjoying myself, buying all this stuff. And, we had advance money. We was getting money every month, and we might have a couple of shows and things like that. But this money for my second album was like, okay, we about to be multi-millionaires. So we're going to be touring, and we're going to get this startup nice advance and, a ton of shows and the celebrity life. So it didn't happen. We ended up losing our record deal, and 2 of the guys in the group vanished. We didn't hear from them the day we were supposed to sign a deal. I lost the money. I never got it. My mom was home. My sister, she was having some issues. My family was going through some things. And that $150,000 was supposed to be a boost for my family. And that was in 2002. And we ended up losing the deal. Motown dropped us. We lost our record deal. We still didn't hear from the 2 guys. They went on with their own agenda. And it took about 2 years, and then we heard from them. But by that time, I didn't know what getting dropped felt like, so we lost the deal. And then we reconnected, and then we ended up getting a single deal with Def Jam, and that was short-lived. And then after that, everything started spiraling down. I started going through a lot of stress because think about it. I'm coming from East Baltimore, and actually, I'm the first person from the hood of East Baltimore, because Cisco not from the hood. Shout out to Cisco. Woody not from the hood of East Baltimore. He from like Maryville area and stuff. I'm from like the hood projects, right? And I love Drew Hill. But I was the first person to get a record deal, a music deal from East Baltimore. They didn't have anybody that was doing the kind of music that I did during our time, right? So the whole community was riding on it, right? But we at that time, everything just collapsed, and I started going downhill, man. You know, coming from East Baltimore, being exposed to having people like Patti LaBelle call my mother, "Hey, how you doing? I'm here with your son." We had the Calvin Klein mansion. You know, I'm in New Jersey. I'm going to parties in Inglewood Cliffs where Kamora Lee Simmons is at, and Mike Tyson, and all this big stuff. And, you know, we flying on planes and, you know, going all these places and living all these places, man, and meeting all these people. And, you know, and then it all went downhill like it never happened. And it's crazy because when I was home, my music was still playing on the radio. So I went into a dark place, and I had to make a decision if I was going to keep going or if I was going to quit and just become somebody that could have been great, right? And it's crazy because that was a super dark time, right? I tell people, I did an interview with a White House correspondent a couple of months ago, and he was talking about success, and I said that I redefined success. The hardest time and the most success that I had when I made a decision to not give up. See, people think I'm having success now. No, I'm not. This stuff is easy. This is the simple. This is not impressive to me. I like it, I appreciate it, but it's not impressive. What's impressive is when your whole world crumbles down. You flat broke. You feel like you let your whole family down, right? You went from being on national TV, touring, doing all this stuff, right? I worked with the top tier, done it all, been there, done that, been in every magazine, Vibe, Source, everything you can think of. I've been in all that stuff. To sitting around trying to figure out what you're going to do, and you're like, man, like what my family going to do? So I had to fight for my life. So when I made a decision that I wouldn't quit despite, that's when I became a success. Because that took more energy, that took more force that I had in me, not to throw the towel in and say, I tried, never gonna be nothing. That's when I became a success, because I decided that I would fight for my life.
I love that. And that's how the book came about then.
Give it one more try. And
what was the reception when the book came out?
Oh man, it was a lot of emotions. You know, sometimes I've had interviews and conversations, man, where I just had like a breaking point. Because see, this is the thing, and you said something. Like, I'm not into fake shit. You understand? Right. I can't relate to it. I'm not an Instagram influencer. I'm not a social media influencer. I don't have to bend over to like, meaning like, I don't have to, people don't have to like me. I actually have talent, right? I come from a time where I don't need people to like me on social media. I made real music that touched people, right? But I also understand I was born with a gift. Back at those times, we knew that we had gifts. No different than Michael Jordan. No different than Whitney Houston. No different than Oprah Winfrey. You know, no different than Wendy Williams. You know, no difference than you, who has real talent, who's starting something that has real value. And I see it's growing, right? So there's a confidence that you have. Like, I don't need validation. I could deactivate my Instagram right now. Don't mean it's not going to do nothing. It's not going to change me making moves and making things happen, right? But I wouldn't do that because I want people to see, because it's not about me. My social media is not about me. My social media, I want people to see what I'm doing and understand that the grass could be green on the other side, right? and there is light on the other side of the tunnel. So when I decided to do the book was just a message that I've told myself for many years. Don't give up, don't quit. You like give it one more try. And you know, that's how the book came about.
And it's funny you say that because I have a son, and that's why this podcast started, because of him. I wanted him to learn that, you know what, just because you can't get what you want or can't get that first job, whatever, you keep on pushing.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to listen to people like yourself, people who are out there doing great things in society. And guess what? You didn't stop. You're going to make it work. You're going to make it happen. Don't give up. And that kind of lines up with how this podcast started, about not giving up and having my son. Because guess what? When he's 18, understand everything that his dad's doing, it's like, damn, I recognize that story through me. Well, wow, I went through that. And that's what's really about the podcast, is talking about people like yourself who are doing great things.
Thank you.
So kudos to you for what you're doing. But we're gonna give you some more shine.
We haven't even started.
I know we're gonna do a part 2 for this, but let's talk about, you're doing some major moves in Baltimore right now. Disclaimer, I'm partnered with Baltimore Peninsula, so on here, so everybody knows that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I saw you down at Baltimore Peninsula. I came up to you like, who is this guy? I was like, so I want to tell you I'm interviewing you very soon. You're doing big things. How did you connect with Miss Mary Ann Gilmartin, like down there? How did, like, because I mean, you really made some, because everybody I've spoken to, they're like, we love him. Katie's the guy. He's the guy. That's some background from them. Talk about how that whole.
So I'll tell you how crazy this is. So we got to rewind this.
Okay.
So, man, when I decided to give it one more try,
right.
I started trying a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Right? Without even knowing what the hell I was doing. So I started managing and I started doing media and trying to do this and do that. And like I ended up producing season 3 of Ice Loves Coco, her fashion show. I was doing some stuff with Master P in LA that went left, and man, I just started doing I started getting into reality TV and managing reality stars. It was crazy. I was just throwing stuff on the wall, seeing what stick, right? So at the time, I was working with Kevin Hart's ex-wife, and just like, what the hell was I doing with her? I was just trying to set up stuff, right? So I was just like, wherever I can put my hands on. And one day, someone from the Oprah Winfrey Network reached out, and they was like, oh, we want to bring her on the show, but they had to go through me to get her on the show. So I'm in LA, right? And this is years back. And there was a young lady by the name of Pinky Cole. And she was producing the Fix My Life show. She was working on the show doing something, right? And we connected, and she's like, damn, you from, we say two.
Yeah.
She's like, you from Baltimore? I said, yeah, you from Baltimore? So it was no slutty vegan, none of that stuff.
Right.
And she was just doing TV, and then we just connected, right? And she was like, yo, I told her, I was like, I used to be in Prophet Jones. She's like, damn, you was in Prophet Jones? Like, oh, man, like, yo, y'all was dope, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, what happened to y'all? I started telling her the story. And she was like, would y'all mind coming on the OWN network? And I'm like, oh, man, that'd be dope. But unfortunately, we wasn't able to pull it off. I'm in a group, so you got a lot of components involved in that. And we were supposed to went on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and we just didn't pull it together. But I really, appreciate her for loving the music that I put out, and my music touching her, seeing what I've accomplished coming from East Baltimore, right? And wanting to share with the world the story, right? So we stayed in contact. She didn't have no slutty vegan and none of this stuff. She was still doing other things. And it's so funny because that relationship led me to a different road, right? So we're doing this interview, but we skipped over a whole lot of different steps. But I know it's just, we doing the interview. But anyway, so Pinky was having a lot of success, during the pandemic. And it's funny because I remember I had met with her, and she's told me she had some good ideas on some things she wanted to do. And I think she went to Jamaica, and she had came back, but she started having a lot of success during the pandemic, right? And I was like, hey, like, you on fire. But I knew she was in Atlanta, it wasn't Baltimore.
Right.
So I just really I started working with her, and I just started looking for opportunities. So the crazy part is there was an opportunity to speak at the mayor's youth conference. So I spoke at the mayor's youth conference. So it's funny how when you do things for others, it comes back in a way unimaginable. Right. And we talked to these kids who needed the conversations that we were giving to them. And it was for the mayor. Shout out to the mayor for putting these events together.
Which mayor was this?
Right now.
Oh, Brandon. Okay.
Yeah, Brandon Scott.
So we got a lot of them.
Yep. Yeah, it was Mayor Brandon Scott. He had put something together for the youth. And it was a youth business or empowerment or something like that. So I was one of the speakers.
Okay.
And after we did the conference, Chenier.
Yep, Chenier, yep.
She was leading for the speakers. So after it was over, she was like, hey, we're working on something at Port Covington or something.
Yeah, Port Covington.
I thought it was a school, right? I'm like, oh, that's school down in Harbor East.
Right.
And we met, and she explained the whole vision for Baltimore. Now, it's funny because I had a meeting at the time. I think it was the chief of staff or something at City Hall, because I had a vision to have like Slutty Vegan and the M&T and the Oreos and all these places. I was like, oh, this could be when it come to Baltimore, because Pinky was going to bring it to Baltimore anyway.
Right.
But it was like, well, if we're going to do it, let's go, let's make it big. And she told me about that vision, and we had like a million meetings. And she was the one who really, really, really opened my eyes to what was going on in Baltimore. I had no clue that this big $1 billion project was underway. And that's how the relationships all started. And I went on site to see everything. And then, I met Marianne and Kevin first. And Marianne was really, really cool. And the relationship just kind of just grew and grew. But Chenier, she turned the lights on. And it took a long time. We would have meetings, and then I called Pinky I said, yo, I got opportunity for you. I say, this is a big one. And I told her what was going on. I, explained to her. And she came to Baltimore, and we set up the meeting. And the first meeting, it was with Marianne and Ashley and Chenier and a few other people there. And we had that meeting, right? And then more months went by.
Sounds about right.
And then me and Chenier, doing our thing, and she's on the ground, and then we figuring things out. And then the last meeting we had with Kevin, and then that was it. And so me and her worked hand in hand to put this Peninsula deal together, this project together. And I fought on my end, she fought on her end, and we made it happen. And now this is history.
Yes,
it's massive history. This is the first time in history this kind of deal has happened, because you got a young lady who has built $100+ million company and is the biggest vegan brand in terms of a young African American woman in the United States. No vegan brand is bigger than Slutty Vegan. Period. This is public, factual information. I don't make up information. I only repeat what's real. She is the hottest and the most popular vegan brand owned by a young African American woman in the United States. And so bringing that element, and she's from East Baltimore, and I'm from East Baltimore.
Right.
Bringing that element with a big guy like a Kevin Plank and a monster like Marianne Gilmartin, who did big deals with Jay-Z. Right? And then Goldman and Sachs. And then you got McFarlane. You talk about Magic Johnson and all this. These are the top tiers, all these billionaires, you know, coming together to create something great. You know, so man, I tell you this, look, if had I gave up none of this, I wouldn't be right here.
Right.
And this is my message, right? So this interview, you know, we would have to literally sit here for 5 hours for me to go over everything, right? So let me say this. Along my journey, I didn't do it all by myself, right? So it took a lot of different help. A lot of different help from different people, you know, along this journey. I have one of my friends, Sheena Janelle Smith. She's somebody that was a part of that journey too. And I had, you know, different people who, when I was in transitional times, you might have needed different resources and different help as you going. So a lot of times you hear people say they self-made millionaires, right? Everybody's saying nobody's self-made. That's fake. Nobody's a self-made millionaire. When you building and you going on your journey, you're going to have help. You might need, when you building a business or building a career, you're going to need help. You might need somebody, hey, I need to get to a meeting, right? And when you transition, you may not have the funds, or, hey, I need someone to type up this document. I need to borrow this. It's so many different people that contribute to your road to success. And listen, I am on top. I know I'm on top. You know why? Not because people tell me, because I can feel it. I know what success feels like because I've had it at a young age. I know the feeling of it. But the difference now, I know how to manage it, I know how to handle it, and I know how to maximize it. At that time, I didn't know what to do with it. Coming out of East Baltimore, being on a $1 billion record label, that was a success.
Right.
But I didn't know what to do with it. Now I understand how to maximize and what to do with where I'm at right now. And that's why I was able to do this Peninsula deal and all the other things. You know, I worked closely with Black Enterprise to build that relationship. When you seen you know, the team on the front of Black Enterprise, I put that together. You know? And but it's still, at some point you get in a space, right, where the right team comes about. And everybody can relate to each other. And we all have a certain kind of energy, right? And that energy creates greatness. So that's where I'm at now. I'm surrounded by people who have give it one more try stories, right? And who've been through many different situations. But like I say, this interview is not for me. I want people looking at this interview to, especially right now, it's a lot going on in the world. We got a lot of hate. We got a lot of people dealing with depression, anxiety. We got people who ready to give up. People dealing with financial issues, and you know, people going through a lot in this world right now. I just want people to know that despite what's going on in the world, you can have impact in the world around you. You can't save the whole entire world, right? But you can make a difference in the world around you. And if you can make a difference in the world around you, that contribution eventually could spread. Right? I'm Mr. Give It One More Try. I'm from East Baltimore. Everything you hear on the news, all of them stories you see these young guys out here, I'm a stereotype. I wasn't supposed to make it. My father was in prison for 20 years. My mother was raising me until my stepfather came. Aunts and uncles in and out of prison. I'm from East Baltimore. I got family members that's been in the streets. I'm the same person that you see on the news every day. But you want to know what the difference was? I had one person to believe in me. That was the difference. One person. You don't need two people. You just need one person to believe in you. I'm that person that they talk about on the news. Them young kids. Because I used to sell air fresheners for my Aunt Molly. We used to sell them down the hill when I was little. But I'm that same old kid that everybody looking down on them. oh, he's not going to be nothing. He come from this kind of community, this kind of neighborhood. His father in prison. Write him off. No, look at me. I've been signed to 3 major record companies. Been on major movie soundtracks. Got to travel the world. Work with all kinds of amazing people. Been able to help other people. And now I'm creating billion-dollar partnerships.
I think you said it all right there. That was a great way to wrap it up. And how can people find this book?
Give It One More Try. It's at Walmart. It's at Amazon. It's at Barnes and Nobles. It's where all fine books are sold. All
right.
my books go online, and most people order from Amazon.
Got you. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to work with you, or maybe want to collab with you?
So I'm on social media.
Okay.
At the real KD Mcnair.
Okay.
I'm on social media. That's a way to interact with me.
Do you have a website or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Most of the business that I do, I've been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, I'm not out looking for a lot of business. I'm more focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't built my business off of, hey, giving out 1 million business cards and all that kind of stuff, right? What I have is a gift. This is special, right? This is not for everybody, but I'm willing to utilize it when it needs to be utilized. But I have a special gift, and I know it. Just how I see things, my thinking, and just some of my ideas and concepts.
All right. Well, we're going to say IG one more time. So
At the real KD Mcnair.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Thank you, sir, for hanging out with NoPixAfterDark podcast. We're going to do a part 2 for sure.
Oh,
Definitely do a part 2.
We're going to do it at the Peninsula.
Even better.
Yeah, you at a residency, right?
We got something going on down there.
Yeah. You doing big business.
Appreciate you. I really appreciate you taking time out your day for coming here and just really explaining everything and breaking it down. Because I know you've done 1 million of these, but now you did 1,000,001. And I appreciate, because my audience now has learned and heard your story.
No, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. People love, peace. We're out.